Welcome to the Leader's Edge, where we celebrate leadership and shine a light on the visionary leaders that are shaping our future. Hey, I'm HR Huntsman, founder of the Leader's Edge, creator of the Leader's Edge Performance Engine and Leader's Edge University. And I am thrilled to bring you stories from leaders who are making a difference around the world. In each and every episode, we champion the innovative strategies, courageous decisions, and inspiring journeys of those who lead with purpose and passion. So whether you're looking to refine your leadership skills or you simply want to be inspired, my friend, you are in the right place. Today on the show, we are joined by Richard Gearhart. Richard is an intellectual property attorney, entrepreneur, nationally syndicated radio host who has spent his career helping innovators protect what they build and scale what they imagine. After leading global patent organizations for companies like Novartis and Ciba Vision, Richard took a bold step in 2006 and jumped off the cliff to launch what would become Gearhart Law, an international firm now trusted by thousands of inventors and founders worldwide. Richard has twice landed on Inc. magazine's fastest growing companies. He has represented multiple entrepreneurs who made it onto Shark Tank. He's earned recognition among New Jersey's best of the best lawyers. Beyond the courtroom, Richard co-hosts the iHeart radio show Passage to Profit, Road to Enterprise, speaking weekly to founders across the country about innovation, risk, and resilience. He co-hosts that with his wife. Today, he joins us to unpack what it takes to leave the security of corporate leadership, build a world-class firm from scratch, and scale through the very growth challenges he helps his clients navigate every day. This is a good one. Please enjoy my conversation with Richard Gearhart. Richard, thank you so much for being on the show, my friend. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Great to be here.
I always look for clues when I talk to high achievers, high performers, business owners. I think that success leaves clues. I read that your dad was a World War II veteran and had a pretty significant impact on your life. Could you tell us about that?
If you can remember the movie The Great Santini, it was like my dad was the drill sergeant in that movie. He was literally a drill sergeant and fought in World War II as infantryman. He fought for a while in Africa against
Rommel, sure.
For a while in Italy. It was at the Battle of Monte Cassino. And I'll never forget when one time I was actually living in Europe for a while.
Okay.
And he came to visit and we took a trip to Italy and we drove around the Monte Cassino, which is this big monastery that is up on top of a hill. And so we were defending it, the Allies were defending it. And we drove around and he said, yeah, I hid behind that rock there when they were shooting at us.
Wow.
And then we went up into the Abbey and there were nuns there. And my dad introduced himself and they were enamored with him because he had fought in that battle. And there were so many stories that I think it was probably a great moment for him because
I'm sure.
They were honoring him in front of his son for his service, and he was very proud of that. So,
what impact did he have in your life as a leader, an entrepreneur, a hard worker? And what seeds did he plant in you that exist to this day?
My dad was pretty blue collar. He did HVAC, and I'm pretty blue collar. I have this side to me where I'm happy working in the garage because I've got a workshop there and I like to put things together.
Yeah.
And for me, it's therapeutic and relaxing. And being with him, I learned a lot about working with tools, hand tools, and had a love for working with mechanical things. And so that was one part of it. The other part of it, he was a very decent guy. He always told the truth. And so I think I inherited his standards for integrity.
Yeah.
And he was also very brave. He was a brave man. I think at a certain level, fearless about physical things.
Yeah.
Not intimidated, but also very much like a rock. And those were the traits that I admired him for the most, for
Nice.
sure.
That leaves an odd juxtaposition, this blue collar background, HVAC, working with tools, and you become an attorney. Tell me about that journey. How did that happen?
So ever since I was a kid, I always did mechanical stuff.
Okay.
And it was either models or building things or just science experiments. And so I had a natural inclination toward math and science. And in order to become a patent attorney, you have to be pretty good with science. That's part. So my bread and butter is protecting inventions of all sorts and types. And I didn't go to college and become a mechanical engineer, but I became a chemist.
Okay.
And so when I actually was looking for a type of law practice, I fell into the patent attorney thing. And literally after 2 weeks of starting, I knew that this was it for me for my
Interesting.
whole life. I was not going to change. And that was 37 years ago.
Wow.
And since then, it's been great. I learn something new every day. And I really can't think of doing anything else. So,
Now you took that and went the corporate route. You worked for Novartis for a while.
uh-huh.
You had a senior role there. And I'm always curious about this leap. Anytime I talk to entrepreneurs, when they leave the corporate world or they're working for somebody, they're a W-2 employee, and they jump off the cliff into entrepreneurship. Tell me about that jump, Richard.
Oh, I would say I didn't, I was excited about it.
Okay.
I was tired of corporate politics. I felt like I'd been through a meat grinder
Yeah.
there. And I know that I think things have improved a lot at Novartis since I was there, but I had a crazy boss and I just felt like really beat up.
Okay.
And I had gotten it, my predecessor went out and started his own firm and seemed
Okay.
to be doing pretty well with that. And I thought, I'll give this a try. I really liked the opportunity to be creative. I always think of the law firm as my canvas, and I get to paint whatever I want as long as it makes sense. And it was that kind of freedom that I really needed and that I craved and that I feel helped me do my best work and be most satisfied as a
Yeah.
professional. So,
20
so
years.
it
Oh, go
was
ahead.
a scary transition.
Sure it is.
I had a mortgage and 2 kids, but I gave myself a runway. If I hit a revenue target within 6 months, then I would stay with it. If I didn't, I would go back into corporate. And I found out that I could attract clients. And that's like an important thing if you're gonna go start your own practice.
Yeah, a little bit.
And so that's what I did. And it worked out okay. So
20-year anniversary this year. Congratulations, by the way. That's a big deal.
thank you very much. Yeah. I sometimes look back and say, if I knew what I knew then, what I know now, would I have done this? The answer is yes, but still, the journey was not as easy as it seemed when I started. And
Let's talk about that.
yeah,
I'd love to hear about what you've done well as a leader, as a boss. You've grown. Where did you screw up? Where did you trip up? What mistakes did you make? What was harder than you thought? Fire away.
yeah. I think it took me a while to really appreciate that it's the people, it's the team that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
At Novartis, other corporations I worked, all very, all my colleagues were really nice people and I enjoyed knowing them, but they didn't have to be especially good at what they did because they were evaluated on other things, personality. It wasn't just, and they were all reasonably capable, but you didn't have to be at a better level to because they didn't really have to impress any clients. And but also there was more room for personality differences and idiosyncrasies. And when you're in a smaller team,
Yeah.
I think things have to gel better. And if you're in an entrepreneurial environment, I think there has to be high levels of personal accountability for your team members. And so I don't know that I appreciated that. It took me
Right.
a long time to
Right.
finally figure that out, longer than it should have. I should have listened to other people's advice. But now I try really hard to make sure that it's a good fit and spend a hire slowly, fire quickly is the advice that I've been given in the past. And take your time and make sure that they're going to be a good fit and that the team member can do everything that they say they can do or they think they can do.
Yeah.
That's also very important. So I've been fooled more than once, and it's definitely slowed things down.
Yeah.
So if I were, I mean, it seems obvious, but to think that way, but it took me longer than most.
Yeah,
So
no, I think we all go through that evolution. We work with lots of law firms ourselves, and I'll have this conversation with these attorneys that are starting their own. And I say, you can be an attorney or you can be the leader of a law firm. Which do you want to be? Because those are not necessarily, those are two different skill sets.
they absolutely are. And I had a boss when I worked at Dow Corning, and he said the same thing. He said,
Yeah.
look, it's hard to be both a good leader and also a good attorney.
Yeah.
And some people can do it, but it's easier if you pick one or the other.
Right.
And so yeah, I think you're spot on there.
Where do you spend most of your time? If we could just nuts and bolts, how much time do you spend being an attorney and how much time do you spend developing your team, developing your talent, leading, being a CEO?
I spend almost no time being an attorney
Yeah,
anymore.
that's what I would assume.
And it's been that way for a while. We have 25 people on our team, including attorneys and contractors and support members. And we also have a new structure in the firm. We have what we call the C-suite team. So we have a CEO, fractional CEO, a fractional CFO, and a fractional COO, and a fractional CMO.
Okay.
And so they've been bringing in the outside perspective. This is what other law firms are doing. They bring a lot of resources to us. For example, right now we're looking for a new CPA, and those people know CPAs that have worked with law firms, and they're able to make recommendations about people we should talk to that they feel they have confidence in. But anyway, so I spend a lot of time on the leadership piece, too much time on the administrative piece. That's why we have this C-suite team, really trying to get out of the administrative rabbit hole, and then spend more time on business development.
Yeah,
So
very good.
that's what my targets are for this year. But it's hard. It's with all this two-factor authentication, it's really hard to delegate access to team members for bank accounts or
Sure.
software. Even if you buy a seat for everybody, the bank just absolutely doesn't want to let me go.
Yeah,
I mean,
I want to
I
talk.
have to
Yeah,
be on the phone with them. I
right.
have to be the one who is there working on the account. Anytime there's an issue with that stuff, I have to be involved. And it's a real time sink. And
How
one of my
e
frustrations.
how easy or hard was it for you to move from attorney to leadership developer, team developer?
That's a good question. When I was at Novartis, I was a leader there.
Okay.
So I already had I thought I had some leadership skills. I didn't really have any leadership skills.
Okay.
I had position authority and some likability, but I really didn't know what I was doing. And so it's taken me I guess I hired my first team members pretty shortly after I started. Within the first year, I hired an administrative assistant, then I hired a paralegal, then I hired my first associate. And so I felt early on that I wanted to build a team,
Yeah.
and I saw it as the quickest way to growth. I mean,
Let's talk about your radio show.
okay.
Tell me about it. Passage to Profit. How did you brainstorm that? And you do it with your wife. I'm curious how that works.
Most days pretty well. So I had a friend who had a radio show on CBS,
Okay.
and they had a special event. Being close to New York, if you want to be in media, there's more opportunities here. So anyway, he invited me to CBS. They had a live performance of the radio show in front of an audience. While I was there, I met one of the CBS persons, representatives, and we had a nice chat. And she ended up leaving CBS and going to iHeart. And so she and my wife went out to dinner one time, and my wife came home the next morning and said, "What do you think about doing a radio show?" And thought it was a great idea. I had done radio in college. I had managed the
Okay.
college radio station.
Okay.
And between college and law school, I had done some volunteer work for public radio. So I had worked at WCPN in Cleveland when they were first launching. And so I'd always had radio in my blood. And so the thought that I could have my own show, what I went for. And it was,
What do you love about it?
I think what I really like about it is trying to learn how to be a better radio personality.
Okay.
I'm 65 years old. We've been doing the show for 8 years, but I still like learning more about the medium and being an effective host. So that's what I really enjoy. And I enjoy the guests. I enjoy tinkering with the format of the show. I enjoy doing the show prep. I like just about everything about it.
Okay.
So it's just for me, it's fun. It's like a hobby.
Sure.
We're not making tons of money on it, but it's for us, it distinguishes the law firm from other law firms.
Sure. Yeah.
And if somebody sometimes we'll have clients on, and so that's a positive. We meet a lot of interesting people. For example, we're going to have Wambi Rose on, he was the most successful Shark Tank contestant ever. And he started a greeting card company called Pop-Ups, where
Okay.
when you open the card, there's a center little statuette or something that
Sure.
pops out. He's going to be on the show tomorrow. And so I get to meet people who are like way out of my league and pick their brain. And it's a great experience. And
You've
so,
worked,
yeah,
you've worked with several Shark Tank people, right?
yeah, we've
Yeah.
worked with Lollyware. I'm having trouble. Heatman Charcoal was a
Okay.
big one. They're doing really well.
Nice.
Create a Castle is a client of ours.
Okay.
And Kevin from Create a Castle, the iHeart representative I mentioned earlier, found him on a beach in New Jersey. So his product is that you take these plastic forms and you fill them with sand, and then you create a castle out of those.
Okay.
And he's done phenomenally well. He's been in every big box store, Walmart, Target. They have a line with Disney now. So they've done really well. But she found him on a beach making these things before he got famous, and she brought him to Passage to Profit. And we introduced him to a woman, Lisa Askalees, who does these made for TV pitches. And
Okay.
so she pitched him on Home Shopping Network, and he just had a magnificent success. And that was the start of this huge business. And he ended up winning first place in the International Toy Fair in New York
Oh my goodness.
and has just really gone to town on the business. And it's fun to see that happen. You're really happy for the people
Sure.
when that happens, and be just like a small part of that success is great. So we didn't really do that much. The guy works like a nut, and he and his wife really made it go. But it was funny how the introductions worked, and we were a part of that. So
That you work with protection law, you work with inventors. What's the biggest mistake business leaders making around their own intellectual property or ideas or inventions? What can we do better?
I think there's a couple of things. Number one is not doing due diligence on your IP before you use it. There's different kinds of IP. There's patents, which protect technology, protects innovations. There's also trademarks, which protect brands, product names. There's copyrights that protect original works of expression. Books, all of that is protected by copyright.
Okay.
And so if you're in the process of launching a new product, or you're starting a business or a new product line, and you need to do research first to make sure that somebody else isn't already have that intellectual property.
Right.
So if you're launching a new patent, or I'm sorry, new product, you want to do a patent search to make sure that somebody else doesn't have a patent on it. If you're adopting the name for a new product or a new company, you want to do the research, make sure that name is available. Is where the people get into the most trouble, is they launch it without doing that due diligence. And then 2 or 3 or 5 years later, they find somebody across the country who has a trademark registration, and they end up getting a cease and desist letter. And you're 3 years into the business, you've invested in advertising,
Sure.
you've invested in packaging, and now, all your customers know you by this name, and now they say, we had this name first, please change it. I went earlier in my practice, I had a guy come to me. He had just bought a furniture store, and he didn't use me as his attorney, but he had gotten this cease and desist letter from somebody living in Maryland. And after my client bought the store, he put up a website. The previous owner didn't have a website.
Okay.
And he had spent $3 million for the business.
Oh,
He
okay.
had lots of reputation. He had a very strong brand. And he got the cease and desist letter from another store owner in Maryland. We were in New Jersey, telling him that he had to change his name. And it was exactly the same name for
Yikes.
exactly the same kind of things.
Yikes.
There wasn't a way really out of it. And we eventually ended up having to change his name, and we made some modifications. I don't think the other guy was actually that interested in causing a problem. He didn't want people confusing his store with my client's store
Sure. Sure.
on the internet, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And we worked it out, but he ended up losing a lot of his brand equity because we had to change his name. And
Sure.
the other guy, I don't know whether the seller of the business, he may have known about this and intentionally not put up a website, or maybe he was just old school and he didn't think he needed one. But not checking can make a difference. And if he had found this other trademark, maybe you'd only have to pay 1.5 million instead of 3 million for the business. He could have negotiated value and said, look, I'm not going to buy this business if all the goodwill is covered by somebody else's trademark. So it's important to try to catch these things early.
65 years old, you said, 20-year anniversary.
Yeah.
What's next for you? You still hungry? You still motivated? You still energized? What gets you up in the morning?
Yeah, I am still energized. So we have ambition. We're going to try to double the firm size by 2030. So we have a growth
Wow.
plan for that. And yeah, let's go for it.
Absolutely. Good for you.
And we also are working to improve passage to profit. So that's always interesting to me. I don't, aside from spending time with my family and a few other hobbies, I enjoy my work
Okay.
and I enjoy the challenges most of the time. This last week has not been the easiest week,
I'm sorry.
but you have those.
Yeah, that's par for the course being a business owner.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we're in the market for a new CPA if there's any
Okay.
CPAs out there listening, because our tax guy we did have a good growth year. He completely underestimated our quarterly payments.
Oh, wow.
And I got on the phone with him, was
Ouch.
it January 13th? And he's, you need to put in this. And I'm like, I had accrued for a lot. I accrued what you told me to accrue. And now you're
Yeah.
telling me I need another $100,000.
Yikes.
And so that was so coping that so we had to completely refigure our budget and put all of our growth plans on hold and look at cutting expenses. Big hassle. And I'm going to lose 6 months of my growth plan. I've
That's
only
tough.
got 4 years left to get to my doubling
Double your
my
size.
offer. So I feel like I'm losing out there.
Yeah. When we stop record, I'll connect you to a fantastic CPA.
Okay, good.
Let's end with this, Richard. I always like to end with this question because one of my focal points as a leader and certainly of this podcast and all the work I do is giving to the generation coming behind us. So I like to ask this question of you. See a young lady, young man just coming out of university or trade school, or they just come to you and say, Sir, how can we succeed as a business owner and entrepreneur? What business or life advice would you give that young person?
There's so much I could say, but I'm going to go a little bit off the path here,
Okay.
and I'm going to say make sure you learn AI,
Okay.
because if you're going into the legal profession and you need to understand that it's going to change the way the business works, and so you need to adapt to that.
Okay.
And so that would be my word of wisdom.
Got it. Yeah. Richard, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time with us, sharing your wisdom about intellectual property and growth and leadership. And I wish you the best, man. I hope you double in that 5 years. And I look forward to stay connected with you.
All right, man. Thanks, HR. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet. That's it for today's show. Thank you for joining us on The Leader's Edge. I hope today's conversation inspired you to lead with even greater purpose and impact. My big three takeaways from my conversation with Richard are these. Well, I'm actually going to give four. I have three that I wrote down in my notes from things that he said, but I'm going to give you a fourth one bonus. And that's the humility that came across with Richard. So he hosts his own radio show. He's a nationally syndicated dude. He's best of the best in New Jersey, twice Inc. 500. And he just comes across as like, I just stumbled into this and I'm still learning what I'm doing and I make a lot of mistakes. And I love his humility. And I often find that with really great leaders, they're not hung up on themselves. They're just still learning. He's 65. He's still learning and growing and hungry. And so that's my bonus fourth one. Here's the three that I wrote down in my notes. Number one, leadership requires courage. He learned this from his dad, a World War II combat veteran, modeled that for him. Starting and building a business requires a certain kind of courage. It's scary to bet on yourself. Number two, this comes from everybody. This is not going to be rocket science here, but everyone says you gotta freaking work hard. There's no shortcut. As simple as this sounds, this mantra comes up again and again and again with all the leaders that I connect with. Certainly, I've seen in my own life. Nothing replaces good old-fashioned roll up your sleeves and freaking get after it. Number three, I was surprised when he said, when I asked him the number one thing he'd pass on to young entrepreneurs, he says, learn AI. Again, he's 65 years of age. He's celebrating his 20th anniversary as an entrepreneur. And this was his number one piece of advice: learn AI. He can see where this is going to go. He's a forward thinker, and he can see how AI is going to continue to shape our future business landscape. So listen, if you enjoyed today's episodes, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. I'd love a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback continues to help us reach more leaders like you. That's the whole point of the Leader's Edge. Please stay connected with us on social media for behind-the-scenes content, leadership insights, and updates on all future episodes. Check us out at yourleadersedge.com and follow us at Leader's Edge Podcasts on all major platforms. So until next time, keep pushing boundaries, keep leading at the edge. I'm HR Huntsman, and I'll see you soon.